Hey, welcome. How well are you connected? And I'm not talking about technology. And I'm out for a walk right now in nature. So why don't you come and join me for episode number 50.
Welcome to the show.
Well, welcome to the show. My name is Will Sinclair. I'm your host for The Real Truth About You. We're celebrating episode number 50. I was going to start with some, fanfare music, da-da-da-da, but I didn't anyway. I'm just out for a walk. I'm out in nature in the place I love to be. So this is the show where we try to help you to become your amazing true self, the person that you've always wanted to be. And we're going to talk today about being connected. At least that's one of the things I'm going to talk about. And I'm never always sure what to talk about. And today I was kind of like, wow, what am I going to do for the 50th episode? I never thought I'd make it past episode 5. But here I am on episode 50. And right now I'm outside. It's really nice. The sun's kind of shining. It's a little bit windy. It's the beginning of April out here in Saskatchewan, Canada. And we're just starting to peek into the plus temperatures. It's starting to get to be +4, +5, +10. Tomorrow, I think it's meant to be 15 centigrade I'm talking about. Anyway, it's starting to look good. The snow's starting to disappear here. Maybe you're from a country where there is no snow. Well, wow. That would be kind of awesome sometimes. Unless you're into winter sports. A lot of people in Canada are into winter sports. So they like it. But we tend to get some long winters in Saskatchewan, Canada. And that's a province in Saskatchewan. Anyway, yeah, it's kind of nice. The weather's kind of warming up. And pretty soon the lake that we live right on, or right beside, will be thawed out. I'll be able to get my kayak on there. That'll be kind of awesome. Looking forward to that. Right now the sky is kind of clear. A little bit of clouds here and there. You might hear the wind whisping by the microphone. And there's birds out in the air. There's Canada geese. They're starting to come back. And you can see, patches of bare ground everywhere. The trees are still naked. They're waiting to be clothed with spring and summer leaves. But anyway, I want to talk to you about how well are you connected in this episode number 50. Remember, you can go to therealtruthaboutyou.com. And this episode is being brought to you in part by... Whoa, what's the... I was going to give you a website address. Learnphotographyforbeginners.com. It's where I kind of make some of my income. If you want to learn how to be a good photographer, go there. Learnphotographyforbeginners.com. Anyway, let's change the music out a little bit. So we're in this technological world of connected. We're connected through the internet, through computers. I remember when I got my first computer ever connected to the internet, and this was way back when it was dial-up. Every time you wanted to go to the internet, you had to tell it to connect, and it would go brrr, blah, 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 and make all kinds of noises, and then it would connect to the internet. And it was always a case of you couldn't do much for graphics. It was always text, and I think actually my computer back then was a black screen with green text. Wow, 2-color screen, wow. And when you were designing websites back then, it was always a case of, well, don't include graphics, because most people can't view graphics on their computers, and it really slows you down. And now we're on this high-speed internet, and I'm actually recording a podcast on my iPhone. I'm using an app called Boss Jock Studio, and I'm recording right into my iPhone, and then I'm going to upload it to my syndication company that syndicates this podcast all over the world. We're in 42 countries right now, and that's just amazing. One microphone, and a phone, an iPhone, mobile phone can connect with the whole world. And you're listening to me right now, wherever you're listening to me, in your car, your earbuds, whatever you're listening to me in. And it's amazing the way technology is going and how we're able to stay connected. But the connectedness I'm talking about is the connectedness to your divine, your connectedness to creation around you. How connected are you? Can you go out into nature and can you sit with a tree and feel connected to it? Can you go out into even the city and feel connected to the buildings, connected to the people, connected to the air? Can you feel connected? How connected are you? And I think sometimes we go throughout our day and throughout our time, and we become so oblivious to being connected because we don't take the time to sit and just be. And we get so cluttered up with so many things like commercials on TV and then things on radio and music. And when you walk around, sometimes you've got headphones in, or I know some people who they just can't be in the house without music playing. They can't fathom the silence, and it's really hard for them to enter into that silence sometimes. And maybe you can hear this wind just blowing by the microphone. Yeah, I'm outside today podcasting, and I'm really enjoying this. I'm looking at some canoes right now that are just begging to go into the lake once it thaws out. I'm looking at a fire pit that's been used all winter by different groups that come out to our camp, and very well used fire pit. But this is people come out here and they get connected. People come out from the cities and they come out to our camp. And we run a boys and girls camp. It's a summer camp for kids, and then during the year we have a retreat house and that's open. And we get schools out here, we get families out here, big groups that want to reconnect with each other, reunite with each other, and people want to connect. And this whole thing about connection is so important because we're a very relational people. Even people who like to be by themselves, and I'm one of those. I like being with others, but it does drain my energy. But I love being by myself. But even not being by myself is a connectedness. It's a connectedness to the silence. A connectedness to the stillness. And we're a people that Dr. Stephen Covey talked about, that we always strive for independence, and I've talked about this before, and the world talks about being independent, being on your own, being able to stand on your own 2 feet. And there's something to that about being able to stand, but there's also something about not being independent, but being interdependent. And we are interdependent on so many things and so many people. We're interdependent on the air for oxygen. We're interdependent on light to create oxygen through photosynthesis. We're interdependent on the earth to provide us things. We're interdependent on other people to also help bring those things to us and to give us that sense of relationship and that sense of being. And we're also very interdependent on our God. We're interdependent on our divine. Whatever you call God to be, I call God God. But we're very interdependent on that connectiveness, that connection. We need that connection with everything. And I've found that the more, and I talk about from my experience, right? Because that's the basis of what I can go by. What I bring in, what I learn, what I see, what other people say that I bring in and that I keep and then I bring to you. And that's the perspective I come from, is bringing myself to you, bearing myself to you, bearing brokenness to you, bearing victory to you. But it's always from my perspective, because that's how I see it. And that's what this podcast is basically about, is me sharing how I've gotten to the point where I've got of that inner peace, that inner joy, that steadfastness that I enjoy now. I got asked to share at a group last night, and one of the things I shared about was being a person that was motivated by anger and fear, and worked from that platform. And now, primarily because of meditation and getting into that place of connecting with the world around me, connecting with the stillness of life, coming inside the interior walk. Because you cannot change yourself from the outside. You can only become who you are, or realize who you truly are, from the inside, when you journey inside. And that's what this whole show is about. That's what this whole journey is all about, is a journey to the inside. And to get to the inside, and to get to that place of being able to connect, you might hear me walking here, when you get to that place of connectedness with peace, connectedness with joy, it all comes from the inside. It all comes from the inside. And so you have to take that time of silence. You have to take that time away, and you have to allow yourself to fall apart so that you can fall together. And that's a big thing, is to be able to fall apart so that you can fall together. And through that falling apart, that where your body and where your God is leading you into areas that you're not comfortable with. Areas where maybe you are angry, like I was angry. And it's that anger that is showing you that there's something going on inside that needs to speak to you, that needs to speak to your heart, that needs to speak to your soul. Your God is trying to tell you something. And the more you allow yourself to become vulnerable through stillness, become vulnerable to the powerlessness of being open, it's in that powerlessness of being open and vulnerable where you grow. Whether you're a man or a woman or a child, that's how you grow. Vulnerability creates intimacy, and intimacy creates connectedness. And it's only when we allow ourselves to go inside, because so many times we judge things, we judge others, we judge our life. We're not as good as the other person, or we're not as make as much money as the other person, or we don't have what the other person has, or we don't have that holiday that everybody else seems to be taking, or we start to put other people down because it makes us feel better. It seems to lift us up somehow. But the biggest thing that we do is we judge ourselves. We judge ourselves to be the worst or the best or whatever it is. However you judge yourself is all your ego. It's all the ego. It's all the external you trying to validate your life, trying to make sense of your life around you. But you really have to get into that place where you fall apart. So that ego, that false self, which is not a bad self, it's not the complete self, and it doesn't lead you to the complete truth. And when you die, it's going to die. The only thing that's going to stay is your true self, who you truly are on the inside. That is what will survive. Your soul, your spirit, the God within you, the amazing you that sometimes you can't see. And I'd really like you to take time. If you're not a person who can take time in the quiet, whether it's the quiet of your car, or the quiet of your bathroom, or the quiet of your bedroom, or the quiet of nature, where you can just sit and be It's when you sit in the stillness that you start to see your thoughts arising. And sometimes you get caught up in those thoughts. And then sometimes you realize that you're thinking. It's in that stillness. Have you ever laid on the ground and watched clouds? When you watch a cloud and you see it floating by you, sometimes super slow. Sometimes it's so slow that you don't even notice it's moving. And it's when you lay down on the ground. I used to do this a lot as a kid and even as an adult sometimes with my wife, and we'll lay down and look up at the clouds. And then all of a sudden you see that the cloud's actually moving. Or maybe the cloud is moving faster and you can definitely notice it's moving. But if you are moving at the same speed as the cloud, like if you were in an airplane and you were moving at the same speed as the cloud wouldn't appear to be moving at all. When you're on the ground and you're looking up, it's only when you stop and look and you become that reference of stillness that you can actually see the clouds moving. And the clouds are like your life. When you stop, then you can start to see what's going on in your life. You can start to see the busyness of your life. You're not caught up in this super busy. You all of a sudden come into that place where you become more aware. You become more aware of your life. I used to be so caught up in my anger that I couldn't see my anger. I used to be so caught up in so many things that I couldn't see them. I was living in them. I was living in the anger. I would just get angry. And this seems to be a topic that comes up a lot because I've had people come to me and say, I have so many issues with anger. Or I'm having troubles with my relationship. And then they'll say, I really have an issue with anger. Well, I got to say that, one, that is awesome. Awesome that you, for once, you actually recognize that you have an issue. So at some point, you must have stopped long enough to notice that you have an issue with anger. And you should celebrate that fact. Because knowing that you have that issue means that you're becoming aware, that you've stopped and you start looking at the clouds. However briefly, somehow, you've become aware. Your body is shaking you up enough, or you've hit rock bottom, or God is speaking into your heart and showing you something, and you finally slowed down enough that you can see it. And it's that process of becoming aware that you become connected. You become connected with your body talking to you. You become connected with your God talking to you and telling you issues that are in your life. You don't have to sit and analyze everything. You just be. I shared last night about how I went for counseling, and that was great because it gave me some tools. Like one of the tools that a counselor gave me was about my anger, and he says every time you feel a sense of anger coming on or rage or whatever, imagine you've got a pipe, like a steam pipe on top of your head, and it's got a valve that you can open, and as you open that valve, all the steam comes out and all the pressure gets released. And I actually used that quite a few times, and it was a great tool for me to use. It was a great tool because it helped disperse the anger at that moment. But it didn't always let me move out of that anger. It just helped dissipate it. But I still lived in that anger. I still blamed the other person for making me angry, or what seemed like it was making me angry. And last night somebody shared, I was at a meditation group, and I had shared about being angry, and it wasn't until I developed meditation that got into the stillness of my life and started going inwards that all this anger started to disappear. And the reasons for the anger start to disappear without me trying to do anything about it, without me trying to analyze it, without me trying to make it disappear or walk away from it or do all the things that we try to do externally so that we're not angry or we're not upset or we're not grumpy or we're not craving food or we're not craving pornography or we're not craving. We always try to do things externally, but you have to allow yourself to fall apart so that you can come to that moment where you become aware. And somebody shared last night, because I always share about anger and things like that and lack of self-confidence that I had and all the things that I had. And somebody shared last night about her mom always telling her that she was such a nice girl. She was a super nice girl. And I might even I recorded this, and I might actually, this conversation that happened last night in the sharing and teachings, and how our mom always said that she's such a nice girl, and she's always the nice one at the party, and that she's always the last one to go up and get something to eat so that everybody else gets first, and she's always leaving something for somebody else to have, and she's always the nice girl that says nice things about people. And she just kept programming her daughter. Right? That this is, you have to be good. You have to do good things. You have to be a good girl. Instead of allowing the child to just be. I mean, we do train our kids and we do teach our kids what we believe to be the right thing is. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm talking about the way we program kids. I was programmed to believe that I wasn't really capable of anything. I wanted to be a pilot, and I was programmed over and over and over again that I was too nervous to be a pilot, so there's no point in even trying. And so up to this day, I still haven't learned to fly. And I'm 57 years old, and I'm coming into that point where, like, wow, yeah, I can if I want to, but the thing is, I don't really care anymore. Because at one point it was like I had to be a pilot. And I was so purpose driven in my life. My life had to have purpose, had to have meaning. And maybe you're like that. And now I'm at a point, and it's only in the last even few weeks of what I class as the past 4 years journey into meditation. It's only been the last few weeks or the last month that I've really come into a space where I'm comfortable. I'm just happy to be, rather than have to be something to be happy. I'm just happy to be. Whether I'm doing something or sitting or doing nothing, whether I'm purposeful or not purposeful, I'm finally getting to be at a point where I'm just happy to be. And that has to be an inner thing. It has to be an inside shift. And Stephen Covey calls it a paradigm shift, where your whole being seems to shift into a new mode. And you start to live who you are rather than who you think you should be. And so often we've been programmed as children. And I'm not saying don't tell your kids or raise your kids and just let them run amok, because there's so many things kids need. Borders, and they need limits to live within to start with. Or maybe they shouldn't live within limits. Whatever. Anyway, I'm trying to talk about your life. And I'm trying to talk about how my life has transformed so much in the past little while, because I've just allowed the change to happen. I haven't sat and psychoanalyzed everything, and why am I like this? Why am I feeling this? Why am I driven to do stuff? Why am I driven to be purposeful in life? Why does my life has to have meaning? Why do I have to be able to affect and change the lives of others? Now I'm getting into be, what do I want to be when I grow up? Or maybe I don't really want to be anything. Maybe I just want to be whatever happens. And that's a big thing for me. Allowing life to grow up. allowing my life just to be. And I'm coming into a place where I find that where I used to be a person who like, okay, I got to run a retreat because I really got to tell people these things. All right, got to have a podcast because people have just got to know this information and they got to learn how to change and transform and what a great life they can have. To now, I'm just beginning to enjoy life for life's sake. And I'm finding that where I go, it's like God opens doors and opportunities, and people come to me and ask me about anger issues, and I don't have to push to do things. It seems like God just lays out things in front of me as I go. And that's what happens when you transmute, when you transform, when your life increases in light. And not so much increases in light because you already have everything in you. You become more aware of it. You uncover more and allow more to transpire out of you. And people see that. They see the transformation in you and they get drawn towards you. And so that's what's happening in my life right now. I'm just being drawn towards that. And people are being drawn towards what I seem to have. And it's just amazing. I'm starting to learn how to do watercolor painting because I just want to, and it's just pretty cool. I'm actually trying to get over the fact that I don't think I'm a good painter at all. And I downloaded a course and it's pretty cool. And I'm just learning how to paint and I'm learning how to do other things too. And just because I want to. And where did it used to be like, well, I'll have to learn how to paint so that I can sell my paintings or teach other people how to paint. Well, no, I'm just learning how to paint because I'm enjoying painting. It brings me into the moment. I really like it. Same as photography. Photography's some like a great meditation tool. It just brings you back into the moment. And coming into the moment is part of the life, is realizing that there is no such thing as time. There is no such thing as time. Time is a measurement. It's a tool that we've developed. If you asked a tree what time it was, it wouldn't have a clue what you're talking about. If you asked a bird or a flower, what time is it? It wouldn't know what you're talking about. We are the only ones that measure time. And, you need that in the sense of clock time and the way you have to get to work at a certain hour or you work and trade off your hours for money and things like that. But in reality, when you get caught up in that measurement tool of time and you get anxious about tomorrow and anxious about your past and stressed out, past is gone. Future only exists in your mind. So come into the present moment. And that's what for me painting does. That's what for me sitting quietly and meditating does. That's what for me photography does. That's what for me doing this podcast does. Because it brings me into the present moment. I have not got a clue what I'm going to say. I just open my mouth and whatever comes out, comes out. And if you're meant to hear it, you hear it. And if you don't, you don't. And before it used to be, I have to make sure you hear everything. I may have to make sure what I'm going to say and write it all out. And now I go and I speak in public and I don't even think about what I'm going to say before. If they give me a topic, well, okay. And it's mostly to do with personal transformation. So it's stuff that I'm already familiar with. I don't have to go and speak about spectral dynamics of infusion force, whatever, and learn about stuff like that. I'm speaking about stuff I know a lot about anyway. And I just speak. And it's like my God says, just go. Go and open your mouth and I'll help you. And that's what seems to happen. That divine connectedness. So take time and connect with what's around you. Connect with nature. Connect with your God. And pretty soon you'll start to see your God in everything and everywhere. Mother Teresa talks about when you can finally see, and remember she's a Christian, when you can finally see Jesus in the eyes of a beggar on the street. then you're somewhere. And that's what we're looking at. When you can finally see God in all of creation. When you can finally see God in all of your life. And feel that divine connected presence. So that's what we're shooting for. That's what we're absolutely shooting for. And anyway, we're at 29 minutes. And I had a funny story to tell you about a cat that kept coming to our camp. He keeps walking 11 kilometers from where he lives to our camp, to our front door. And it's happened a couple of times now. And I was going to tell you about the story if I took this cat back, but I think I'll tell you next time because we're at the half-hour point. And so anyway, it's actually a pretty funny story. But anyway, if you've ever driven with a cat in your vehicle, you might know about it. And I've never driven with a cat in my vehicle. And yeah, I had to pull over a few times. But I'll let you know more about it maybe next week. We'll see. But hey, we're at episode 50. This is amazing. I never thought I'd get past episode 5. Never mind episode 50. And so here we are, celebrating half a century, so to speak. And I'm just enjoying having you guys here and enjoying talking to you individually and getting your emails and all that kind of stuff. And thank you so much for that. 42 countries we're in right now around the world. And I'm just tickled pink and blessed by that. So anyway, you can go to therealtruthaboutyou.com, therealtruthaboutyou.com, and you can download more episodes and share episodes with other people and that kind of stuff. So anyway, if this inspires you, if it talks to you, great. If it resonates with you, great. If not, then you know what, drop it and move on to something that does, because that's what this is about. I want this to resonate with you and help you transform your life and find the most amazing you. So just remember, if you know somebody who could listen to this, pass it on. Share it on social media or whatever you can do to help me get the word out. That'd be awesome. You've already been doing a lot of that. And like I said, go to therealtruthaboutyou.com. So remember, this is Will Sinclair, and remember that you are loved. You are loved. You are loved. And you absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, rock.